what is astrology, and all that good stuff. So just checking my technology here. It looks like for once I actually got it right. I'm really excited about that. I'm looking at people jumping in from all over. Oh my gosh, from France, from Greece, from Milan, from Alameda, California, from Sampaio, Rizal, from Newfoundland and Labrador. I have a Newfoundland dog, which I realize is not from Newfoundland, but I just love that connection. I have a Newfoundland puppy. From Colorado, from Penang, from, oh my gosh, from everywhere. Kashmir, I love saying that. Nairobi. Some places sound so romantic, don't they? So mysterious and so, like you just want to go visit because of the name. So thank you, Oklahoma. Thank you so much, Kenya. This is amazing. You're all jumping in, and thank you so much. You know, if you want to chat with me today, because we will be chatting, you got a couple options. There's Facebook. You can go to the Dr. Elisa Show on Facebook. I'm going to refresh it right now. And if you're in front of a computer, you can post. There you go. You can post your comments, your questions, anything like that. And if you're online right now, I'd love it if you would do that. Could you just go do a thumbs up or a happy face or tell me how you're feeling? Just go into Facebook and the Dr. Elisa Show and say something, right? I'll also pull it up on KUHS Denver's site, and I'll monitor that one too because, well, why not? There we go. And take a look about what you're saying there. You also, by the way, if you want, can text me today in the studio and ask me questions. The number is 720-386-0513, and you can text me. Oh, and by the way, if you're one of my clients, you know, my private number, you could text me for questions. Okay, so what are we doing today? First off, how are you? I hope everyone's doing well out there, and you're still piling in. We've got more California, and Ontario, and British Columbia, and Texas, Marcaz. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce that one. The next one, I think it's from China. Thank you for joining me. Okay, so today we're going to slow it down just a bit. Instead of me having someone I'm going to interview, we're just going to chat, which means instead of rushing through, here's what I do with astrology, here's what Life on the Loose is, here's my books, let's take it down a notch. Here's the reason I want to do this. One, I want you to know who I am. I so want you to know who I am. I want you to know what the tag Life on the Loose is really about, where it came from, why I just embrace it, how I help people, how I support people. However, I want to start with the fact that humans are storytellers. And in some way, we're also story enhancers and story manifestors and story, you know, we live stories. So our narratives, the stories we tell ourselves, are so incredibly powerful. And they are something sometimes, right, to be, you know, reckoned with. What are the stories I tell about myself? What's that internal narrative? And if I do anything, what I do with people is help them change that narrative, because changing the narrative changes your life. Now, let me put this out up front, right? That so much of what we hear in New Age stuff is about dream it, it'll happen. Do a vision board, it'll happen. You can manifest anything. I got to tell you, some of that comes from a language of privilege. That if I'm living a very privileged life and I want to manifest more, then yeah, it's not that hard. Manifesting a different life also takes action. It's not just dreaming. And the more privilege I have, often the easier it is to do. Which doesn't mean you can't do it. I just want us to sort of put it in context. The reason for that is sometimes we get caught up in a story that says, I'm the problem, right? New Age can do that to us. Sometimes we're caught up in a story that says, if I was just better at, my life would be better. So let me give you the foundation here. First off, this show is spiritually multilingual. As many of you know, I'm Jewish, and I come from a very Jewish framework, which is very different than what the media shows as a Jewish framework. We don't believe in guilt. It's useless. And we do believe in hope and prayer and all of that stuff, and we believe in that dances with science and with data and with action, right? There's a saying in Israel, just so you know, I love this, and that is, if you don't believe in miracles, you're not being realistic. And so it's a dance, and that's the dance that has led me through life. Okay, and I'm trying to see if I'm getting some interesting messages here on my phone, which, if you want to text me, hopefully they're going to come through. Not sure, we'll see if they come through. But again, you can also go into Facebook and message me there. Okay, so let's talk about this narrative. Let me give you a little bit of background and from Jakarta and these amazing places, right? Arizona. Let me start with, how did I get to this point in life where I talk about life on the loose? I learned very early on that there are cultural norms, cultural rules that were made up to help people feel safe and to keep people in line. And I was born probably a changeling. My parents probably looked up and went, what happened? I was born in a time where girls were supposed to be, nurses or K-12 teachers or, get a college degree, but only use their degree until they got married and had kids, and then when they had kids, blah, blah, blah. Okay, all of that. Nothing wrong with doing that. Except it's not what I wanted to do. And all of what I wanted to do became sort of bait for a feeding frenzy in my family. What do you mean you don't want to have kids? What's wrong with you? What's wrong with her? Why doesn't she want kids? What do you mean she's majoring in geology? What is that? It's dirt. Why is she looking at dirt? Why can't she do something more feminine? You're in your late 20s. Why aren't you married? When are you going to get married? Why are you so strong-willed? And I realized that I was scaring my parents. I was frightening them. And that the rules they were following were rules that helped them make sense of their lives, and that they were trying to protect me by molding me into that set of rules. And if you're out there, and I would love a response in Facebook over this, if you are not to be molded, if you are more pirate than princess, if you are more dragon than butterfly, I would love you to put something in Facebook that is a thumbs up, or a smile, or a yes, or a clap. Let me know you're out there. I know, my voice is hypnotic, but let me know you're out there. Come on. The Western Cape, Central Denmark, oh my gosh, come on. Let me know you're out there. Let me know that you're listening and that this is resonating with you. And I seem somehow to have, there we go, to not be getting messages on my phone here in the studio, but that's okay. I pushed the wrong button. You can go onto Facebook. And like I said, if you're one of my clients, you can text my private line. So I learned that, and then I went into geology. I have a master's in geology, and I was a well site development geologist for a major oil company, way before the Me Too movement. If you're young out there and female, you need to remember a few things. There was a time that women couldn't get birth control unless they were married. There was a time that women could be fired because they were women. They could be fired because they were pregnant. They could be called names. They could be grabbed. All of that was like fair game. And I was on the changing edge of that, but I was still there. And I was a woman in a man's field, and I heard about it over and over and over again. To the point when they finally were sending me out in unsafe vehicles, but not the guys, when they were promoting the guys and not me, when they were force ranking us, so you didn't get a review that said, here's what you got in relationship to every man at in the company. I finally sued them on sexual discrimination and harassment, and I can't tell you who they were, because even though it was many, many years ago, I'm not supposed to do that, but they were a major oil company, and they're still, you know, in partnership with somebody else and still around, and it took 7 years to settle this out of court, and it was brutal. They did things that are illegal now. And again, here's what I learned, that sometimes the rules define you as the loser. You're playing a game that says you're going to lose. You are going to lose. Don't play that game. Don't go into a game that says by default you're the loser. And as this is one of my lessons that then kept coming forward for me over and over again. And this is where I developed this whole notion of on the loose, that I had to make up the rules. I had to figure out when no actually was no, or no was, well, not this way, or you asked the wrong person, or, you know, that there's not a dead end, it's a detour. I had to figure that out. And as a mentor, that's what I help clients figure out. As a speaker, that's what I help people figure out in a room. As a workshop, designing workshops. So the next step, what I do, I went back, I got a PhD in educational psychology, which is not about K-12. It's about how do people learn? What are all the different psychological theories and which one works in this situation? How are people creative? So it's kind of a broad-based look at psychology and looking at helping, not looking at dysfunction, but looking at all the things that help life work. And I put myself through that degree. Here I am, I'm at a pretty straight university getting a PhD. And I'm supporting myself as a psychic astrologer, right? An astrologer and a crystal ball reader. And just in case you're wondering, yes, I do classes on crystal ball reading. I actually do use a wine glass with a candle, but you can't travel with that as well as you can a crystal ball. I have one of my small ones with me today. It's amethyst. So here's this geologist who's also a medium who can channel and is a mystic. And what would I end up with? Oh, well, obviously, crystals. And in that time, what else did I do? I got a PhD, I got jobs, I became an academic dean, and I realized that my life had to be this dance between science and metaphysics, between data and faith, between what some people might call meditation, mystical things, and what other people would call, prayer. And then what other people would say is also some realism. Here's where you are, and here's where you want to get, and here's the actions you need to take. And all of that mixes together so that we can create a life on the loose. Right? Meaning, where am I? And where do I want to be? And how do I get there? Okay, I'm checking Facebook. You are not chatting with me. I'm highly disappointed. I would love it if you would. I'm looking at this phone that is an iPhone, and I'm not sure where to push it to get the texts. I think right there. Let's see if we get messages. No messages yet. Ooh. Okay, you can text me at 720-386-0513. If you're one of my clients, you know my phone number. You can text me at my regular phone number, and any of you can go to Facebook and put something in the chat. And if I'm not seeing it, trust me, it's not because I don't want to see it. It might be because Facebook is being weird. There's no telling. Okay. Just checking. I'm going to see if it'll let us do anything. Okay. So, here I come, PhD, right? And I'm still doing astrology. So I thought what would be fun today is just talk to you a bit about why astrology. And you're still pouring in, right? I still have people coming in, Missouri and Medea and Alabama. And some of you are going, what is she talking about? Astrology. The Bible says no. Well, actually, the Bible does not say no. And I have a second master's in Jewish studies, and so I actually read it in Hebrew, and I know what it says. So let's do a little of that, because it's very interesting. Basically, what you're told is don't use witchcraft or astrology or anything like that for prediction. Do not let it supplant Hashem. That's what the Bible's telling us. Hashem is God. Don't use that instead for the future. Why? Well, in Jewish faith, we believe that God knows what you're going to do and you have free will, and both of those things are simultaneously true. Okay? So you're not supposed to go to someone who tells you what the future is supposed to be. You're supposed to be living your present and living it in a way that helps you create the future that is what your soul came here to do. Sort of complex to your spirituality, but there it is in a little tiny nutshell. And how do we know that? How do we know that astrology is not bad? Here's how we know that. If we go very back to the beginning, we know that Hashem put the stars and the planets in the sky. So they're placed there. And later, and we know that things are put where they are for a reason. And later, we start to realize that every Jewish month is connected to a planet and a sign, an astrological sign. That's basic. We see mosaics of that all over Israel. We know that in Torah, which are the 5 books, the Chumash, and in Talmud, the sort of the oral tradition, that we find that you can use, that they do use astrology, that people born in this month are like this. People born with this rising, this constellation on the horizon are like this. People with this planet dominating are like this. And so it's used. But it's not used to tell you what to do. It's used to give you a sense of who you are. And then it's up to you how you use that. So astrology isn't evil. You got that, okay? Now, if it's evil for you, okay, that's fine. But again, remember, we are spiritually multilingual on this show. So those of you who are now saying, yeah, I don't do that, but I do the Enneagram, or I do the Myers-Briggs, well, let's talk about those. The Enneagram has 9 types and was developed at a time period before Pluto was discovered, which meant there were 9 planets that were used in astrology. We don't use the Earth in astrology. 9 planets, 9 types. And if we go through those, we can absolutely see the connection. Myers-Briggs. Interesting, isn't it? Developed by a mother-daughter team. Well, the mother was enamored of Carl Jung. And Carl Jung, he didn't develop Myers-Briggs. He came up with this notion of archetypes. And the mom started typing kids when she was doing daycare. The daughter later goes off to college, gets a degree in psychology, comes back. They expand their typing using Carl Jung's archetypes. So one guess. You can put the answer in Facebook. You can text me your answer. Where did Carl Jung get his archetypes? Astrology. He was very, very into astrology, and the archetypes came from that. Again, not predictive, supportive, helpful, depending, right? Not telling you who you're going to be, but telling you some of the gifts you came here with, and perhaps some of the challenges. And then giving you the opportunity to use those. Okay, so how does that work? For example, and what I'd love is, put your sign in. Put your sign in Facebook, let me know, because I'm just going to go through a few. Message me. I'm not getting any messages. That's really sad. If you think you've messaged me and it's not coming through Facebook, go into Facebook and do it. And if you're in Facebook and it hasn't come through, I'm not sure what to tell you. Let me see if I take a look here. No, you're not chatting with me. Okay. So, what does astrology tell us? So, here's the other thing. People will say to me, well, okay, I'm an Aries. What are you going to do with that? Astrology is not just based on one thing. When you tell me you're an Aries, you're telling me your sun sign, where the sun was at the moment of your birth. I want to know where your moon was, what constellation was coming up on the horizon, because that tells me you're rising. I want to know where Mars and Venus and Mercury and Uranus and Pluto and Saturn and Neptune were when you were born. And more importantly, I want to know something the Kabbalists used and still use, and that many other groups have used. I know we find it in India. I think we find it in Asian types of astrology. Your north and south node. What gifts did your soul come here with? And what unresolved karma does your soul come here with? And what did your soul come here to do? What does it crave? And how do all of those pieces dance in this circle that is an astrological chart that's divided into 12 houses? They look like sort of a pie shape, because each house tells me where this plays out in your life. And every chart is a little unique. Now, sure, you're a twin. Your charts are 5 minutes apart. Okay, the degrees are slightly different. But do you get, the chart isn't defining who you will be. It's information about what you came here with and what you came here to do. But how you do it, well, that's up to you. That's where an evolutionary astrologer comes in. That's where a reinvention mentor comes in. That's where we come in and say, what is up? Oh, and not only do I want to look at that chart, because that's a photo of the day you were born, the moment you were born. Click, I took a photo. I also want to know, where are the planets now? Because you know what? Those planets are still moving. And as they move, they are putting a shadow or a light on the planets in your chart. And that tells you about the energy you're dealing with now. Not what you're going to do with it, not what's going to happen, not good or bad, but the energy of it, the challenge of it, the gift of it. And then the question is always, what are you going to do? What do you choose to do with what you're being given? Well, here's a way to think about it. You're wherever you are before you're born, right? And there's an angel helping you sort of get ready and prepare. You're going to launch. And you know at that point what your soul is coming here to do. You know. And you've got to find like a decent family situation to support that. And you've got to find the moment of birth that works for you. So the chart helps you remember that, because you're going to forget. You're going to be born and totally space out what you came here to do. But the chart will be a reminder. And that angel helps you find the right moment and the right place. And you're born and you get started. And sometimes it's an accident of birth, right time. Place is kind of harsh. So a lot of times things are, trying to find the best. And then it's up to you. What happens? What do you do? That's basic theory behind evolutionary astrology. And I use it with that north and south node to help you remember who you truly are. And get the narrative, the story that you were sort of force-fed, that, maybe for some of you worked for you, but for some of us doesn't work for us, because we knew those rules are stacked against us, and they just don't feel right, and I'm tired of somebody trying to mold me and shape me and tell me what's wrong with me and how I could do better, or whatever it is you could tell me. I don't want to do that anymore. I want to find that peace inside of me and give it the best expression it can have. Now, please be clear. I am not talking about breaking the law. I am not talking about violating any civil or federal or anything like that. But I am saying that if you work somewhere and you're a woman and you feel like you need to cut your hair short to succeed, I can guarantee you cutting your hair short is not going to be that helpful. I worked at a place, my geology job, where the women who seemed to be successful wore really straight little suits. Actually, they looked like guys, right? Short hair, little suits, little tie around the neck. They ended up in the bathroom crying just like the rest of us women. It's not working. No, it's not going to work. They were asked to make the coffee, buy the airplane tickets, plan the event just as often. Right? And these are women with masters in engineering, masters in geology, masters in finance, MBAs. There was a time. Let's not let it come back, just by the way. Let's not let that come back. And we learned. And you might say, well, it's easier now, but for so many of us, yeah, those rules still aren't working. They're still not the way I am. And I've heard it a lot, actually, from women who are retiring. They're like, I spent my whole life, my framework, my joke is with my soul out on long-term lease. I lived life on the loose the best I could, and I kind of, juggled what I had to juggle to get it to work. I stayed, within the channel, right? With the buoys on each side, but I sailed kind of wildly in between them, and I made choices that were in alignment with my values, and I spoke truth to power, and I paid the price, and I'm glad I did, and I'm okay. Now, how do I help other women, and especially those who've retired, come out of that and now embrace Act 2 or Act 3 or whatever? Because, the journey isn't over. It just keeps going. It's just this lovely, never-ending story where we just keep, with our narrative, inventing ourselves. So what is it I help people do? Let me pause. Let me look around. Anyone still piling in? Oh, Brussels and Virginia and another place I can't pronounce. I'm so sorry. And New Hampshire. Wow, look at all of this. This is amazing. India. Saigon. Oh my gosh, this is incredible. Thank you for listening. And New York and Pawnee and Tamil and Sabah and Nigeria. And I'm so sorry if I mispronounced the name of your place, because names are important, and I apologize. Deep breath. You're listening to the Dr. Elisa Show on KUHS Denver, The Stream. And by the way, you're still piling in and not leaving. I'm thinking maybe you're really enjoying this. Maybe, what I'd like to know from you? Would you rather me do this and now go through some astrology than have guests? I can cut back on guests. I can do more of me and more of you. Let's do a little astrology, and I'll give you a flavor, right? So in case you're wondering, we have a full moon in Aquarius coming up on the 11th. The moon has been gorgeous. What is a full moon? A full moon is a time of completion. We hear the stories about people going crazy during a full moon. Well, just remember, the moon controls the tides, and we are 90% water. And so it has pull on us. However, I have found out, just by paying attention, that certain moons are easier or harder on us. So for example, I'm Aquarius Sun, Aquarius Moon, and Mercury in Aquarius, and I love being in Aquarius. And it's a full moon in Aquarius coming up. And one of the things I've learned is that Aquarius moons are a little rough on me, right? They shine a light, they put an energy on my sun and my moon and my Mercury, all in my third house. I get a little jazzed. Knowing that helps me prep a little. If you're a Leo, it's directly opposite you, which is what a full moon is, right? A full moon is directly opposite wherever the sun is. Sun's in Leo, full moon's in Aquarius. Leo, you might get a sense of like a shadow effect, a reflective. Reflecting back to you who you are. What's at a right angle to that? Scorpio and Taurus. That's a square. Squares are a call to action. You might feel like there's something you're supposed to be doing. And the full moon is like putting another planet in your chart for a month. So wherever it lands in your chart, that area gets highlighted. So paying attention to this is kind of interesting. If you're any of those 4 signs, go into Facebook, text me, let me know. Call your friends, let them pile in and listen to me. Hi, British Columbia. Hi, London, England. Love your town. Denver, yes. It's going so fast. California, Oslo, oh my gosh. You're still piling in. Thank you. Tell me, how is that affecting you? So we have a moon that's doing that, okay? Yeah, it's woo-woo. But again, isn't life perhaps best spent as a dance between spiritual and scientific, right? Reality-based and metaphysics, a dance, not just one, not just the other, not choosing one and then pledging to follow it to the end without ever opening ourselves to what else could be happening. When we pledge to silence, in fact, I'll tell you a story. My father died when I was 30, 3 days before my wedding. Judaism, you don't delay the wedding, you tone it down. So I still got married right after a funeral. It was hard. It's still hard to remember it. And yet, what was harder was what my brother experienced. So at that point in time, I'm putting myself through my PhD as an astrologer. I've got a master's still. I'm working in a lab. I'm realizing I can channel. I'm all these things. I'm starting to write a blog. This is pre-blog, starting to think about books. And my brother calls me in tears and says, I really thought calculus and physics would explain the world, but my dad is dead, and I can't resolve it. I don't know what to do. And it's where metaphysics, or prayer, or religion, or spirituality, or whatever you want to call it, had to come in. Not so he could abandon science, he was in the medical field, but so that he could dance with both of them. Because that's where we find that truth. The dance in the middle, where we bring both sides together. Only one political statement. What would happen if we did that in this country? If you stop pledging to follow the extreme wherever you are, and you all came one step to the middle. We all did. Oh my gosh. Would we open our hearts and open our ears and open our minds? That's all I'm asking you to do. Okay, no messages, so sad. And hi, Pennsylvania. Hi, somewhere in Mexico, just went away. Maryland, Colorado, okay. Go into Facebook, let me know you're there. I'm gonna refresh. Maybe you posted and I don't know it, right? It's possible. So, what do? I'm also an author. I wanna just make that one really clear. And I'm going to show you some books. So out of this life on the loose, finding my own way, dancing the whole in the middle, I became an academic dean. First I was the Dean of Arts and Sciences, and then I was the Dean of Adult Programs at a major university. Big career. Full prof, blah, 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 blah. I left that beginning of 2020, middle of 2019, and then started doing consulting and this mentoring and the workshops and the teaching. And before I did that, I'd written 2 books. The first book, if you're in a leadership situation and you're wondering what I mean by more pirate than princess, you got to get this. You can get it on Amazon, Kindle, or paperback. It's called Pirate Wisdom. And it's leadership through the eyes of a little more Johnny Depp and Jimmy Buffett. Actually Captain Jack Sparrow, not Johnny Depp. And who were pirates and how did they live and what was their leadership style and why do I head that way? And I head that way because this was life on the loose. I'm not saying they were great people, all right? Though they had some great things about them. So, this was the first book. Actually, it was the second book, but it was the leadership book. But while I'm working my way through and I'm trying to get a job right after my PhD, I realized that there was a spiritual journey I'd been on. And it involved studying with Kabbalists and shamans and astrologers and sort of amazing synchronicity that happened, and people I met, and gifts of wisdom and eagle feathers and owl feathers and crystals and things that would show up in my life. And this novel came out of that. It's based on a story, a seed of a story. Again, remember, narrative. We all have a story. And the seed of this story is Miriam's well. And it goes on from there. And I have a workshop that I can give. I actually can do this just as a talk. I can do a workshop in front of people. I can actually walk people in some ways through a spiritual journey based on Miriam's well. So, a bit of woo-woo, a bit of biblical interpretation, and then a lot of psychology. And then during 2020, I heard a story, the beginning of which had been in my head for, 30 years. But at some point, I heard the characters tell me the story, which a lot of authors will now say to you, this is how you write novels. You invent the characters, and they tell you the story. And this is a spiritual adventure also. They're both sort of spiritual romantic adventures. All three are available on Amazon, Kindle and paperback. And this one is based with the seed of the story of the biblical Tamar. There were two Tamars, and they're both kind of in here, but it's the seed of that story. And it's about healing our lineage wounds and embracing who we really are and where our soul is taking us. So now I'm an author. And I have a blog. And those kinds of experiences, those daily wonderings, the things I've learned from the guests on the show, the things I've learned from you and my clients and from astrology, all of this, they show up in my blogs. So I have a gift for you. Go to my blog, elisarobin.com. Go there. And I'm updating Facebook to check in and see how many of you have joined me. Not enough, I can tell you that. I've gotten a couple thumbs up and some happy faces and some other stuff, and that's great. Go to elisarobin.com, ELISAROBYN, and sign up for my blog. And then send me an email from my site saying, hey, I signed up for your blog, and the first 5 people that do that, I'm going to send you a Kindle version of Darkfire, free. You don't need a Kindle app. You can read it on your phone. Just download the Kindle app for free. You can read it on your phone, your laptop, your tablet, your computer, whatever you've got. Just because I'd love to have you read my blogs. You can find me, by the way, not just there, but also on Facebook, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, on Medium, where I also post my blogs. You can just look at me there. You can read my blogs without signing up. I'm like everywhere. I'm just all over the internet. You can find me. And I'm here at KUHS Denver The Stream. What have we got? We got a little over 15 minutes left, and I want to give you something that you can take away today. So I want to walk you through a little bit of astrology and tell you again how I kind of link this in. Who's still coming in? You're still coming in. Kurt Stahl and Lyra and San Luis and Greece. Love it, love it, love it. Thank you. There's thousands of you listening to me. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I just want to know if you want more astrology or you want more guests. Okay, astrology. Talked about the moon. Let's just talk about the signs. There's an interesting thing that most of us love parts of what people say about our signs. Often we love the negative aspects of our sign. I'm an Aquarius. People go, you guys are a little like out there and crazy and hard, a little stubborn. I go, yeah, that's Aquarius. You look at Scorpio and you see you guys are kind of sexual. I go, yes, I am. They love that. Okay. Aries, what are you? Let's just do a few of you. Okay. Aries, you're courageous, you're determined, you're confident, you're enthusiastic. You're also just a little aggressive. We'd all like you to know that. And you can be a little moody, a little short-tempered. But when you're on track for a plan, right, you are like a bloodhound going in a direction. Taurus, reliable, patient, practical, responsible, stable, stubborn, a little possessive, a little uncompromising. We love you anyway, and you probably love those things about yourself. Gemini, Who doesn't love a Gemini? You're affectionate, you're fun, you're curious, you're adaptable, you're also annoying. I just have to say that because you're nervous and you're indecisive and you're kind of suspicious at times, and you just have these, you're inconsistent. We still love you. Cancer, you're tenacious, you're highly imaginative, you're very loving, you're very sympathetic. You're pessimistic, you're moody, you're self-centered sometimes. You're definitely suspicious. I have noticed that about you, Cancers. Not all of you. And again, sun sign, moon sign, all of these other elements. This is just one little piece of your personality, not everything you are. Leo, creative, passionate, generous, warm-hearted, the lion. A little arrogant, a little stubborn, a little self-centered, a little inflexible. My best friend's a Leo, one of them. Love you. Virgos, loyal, analytic. What else are you? Hardworking, practical. And if you have a very good friend who's a Virgo, you also know this. They worry. They're very overly critical of their self and of everybody. They're all work and no play sometimes. And I have to say they're great graphic designers because they will look at something you've made and find the tiniest little whatever that would look better if you moved it just a tad right, or a tad left, or up or down. Right? Very good at details, as opposed to Aquarians, not quite our thing. Libras, you're diplomatic. Libras, you're also artists. You love going to museums. You're gracious. You're fair-minded. You love relationships. You can be indecisive. You definitely can avoid confrontation. And I have to say, sometimes Libras, you carry a grudge. Not as much as a Scorpio, but you can. Okay. Come on, Facebook. Come on. Message me. I've got some of my clients messaging me. They're laughing. They're putting laughing faces in my text. How about you? Go to Facebook. Put in a laughing face. Scorpio. Resourceful. Brave. Detectives. They dig deep. Passionate. The Scorpio loves you. They truly love you. Don't ever betray them. They will not give you a second chance. They can be distrusting and jealous and secretive. Now let me add this. Where Taurines are the most sensual sign in the zodiac, Scorpios are the most sexual. And people will say to me, oh, Scorpios are all about sex. Well, all the signs of the zodiac are interested in sex. Otherwise, all of our parents would be Scorpios. I just want to point that out. And a little sexuality is, kind of nice. Can I also say that? So is some sensuality. Now I'll come back to this point when I'm done with this part, but the signs are two ends of a continuum. The opposites are two ends of a continuum, right? From pure sensuality in the Taurian to pure sexuality at the extreme of passion, right? Of the Scorpio. And yet they're at each end of like a spectrum, one spectrum. And when you think about the signs that way, it changes how you think about astrology. Where am I? Sagittarius. If anyone's ever going to disagree with you about their sign and what you say they are, it's going to be a Sagittarius. They're going to tell you that, no, they're loyal and true, and right? That's what they're going to tell you. And they kind of are. They do have a good sense of humor, and they are about learning, and they are about, lots of things like that, and education, but they're also about travel, and they tend to be generous, but they always promise more than they can deliver. They can be impatient, and Sagittarius, we just want to mention that sometimes you have trouble being diplomatic about things, which is also okay, but not necessarily the best. I'm trying to look at Facebook and it just grows up, so I can't tell if you're messaging me. So I can imagine that you are, which is really, really fun, since you're not texting. But you're still coming into the site. This is really from Raki and from Delhi. Whoa, that's awesome. Okay, who have I got left? It's Sagittarius. Capricorn. I've heard it said that Capricorns, well, actually, I'll tell you this in a minute, but I'll tell you now. somebody asked me about, because I was married for a long time to a Capricorn who passed away many years ago, and I'm an Aquarius, and somebody said to me, that's just really interesting that you're an Aquarius married to a Capricorn, because in reality, Aquarian this is kind of like, dropping into Munchkin land, and they're cute, and they're devoted, and they're hardworking, and they're just, at some point you got to follow that yellow brick road out of there. And they said that's how they kind of picture Aquarians and Capricorns together. And what I have to say to you is this is the danger of only looking at the sign when you talk about astrology. An Aquarius and a Capricorn might not be a good match, but he had an Aquarius moon, and I have my North Node in Capricorn, and so astrology is so much more complicated and deeper. Okay, Aquarius, so I can make fun of myself, right? We are progressive, we're original, we're independent, we are definitely humanitarians. However, while we like humanity, we're not that fond of people. We also think that emotions are just kind of nasty. I have a Scorpio rising, so that doesn't always show up in me, but it can. But if I could just go into my head. So if you say to me, how are you feeling, I'm going to think about it as opposed to reflect on my emotional self, because my head is much more fun up there. Definitely we can be temperamental, and we definitely come across as aloof. You can ask my honey right now that I'm with, and our first date, I'm sure I just came across as kind of an aloof, not quite a witch, but something similar. And I say it, he never would. Well, he might, but I say it. And then we have Pisces. And again, you're just kind of like, well, who doesn't like a Pisces? My mom was a Pisces. I love Pisces. What are Pisces about? You're compassionate. You're artistic. You're intuitive. You tend to be gentle. And you're fearful. And you get over-trusting, and then you get betrayed, and then you're sad, and then you want to escape reality. And I got to tell you, Pisces, the one thing we tell Pisces all the time is you could please ask for what you need, because we know you're very psychic, and so you know what we need, and you assume that we know what you need, and then you get mad when we don't provide what you need because we were supposed to know. Just could you tell us? It'd be very helpful. Okay, so that is a jump through. Now, here's what I'd like to know. And I really want this. And you're still coming into the site. Oh my gosh, this is amazing. Senador, thank you for being here. Here's what I'd like to know. I can shift this show. We can just have us and not really have a lot of guests. I have 1 or 2 scheduled. But I got the whole rest of the year just kind of wide open. And what I'm wondering is, would you like a show with astrology? And I can teach you how to read a crystal ball, and I can bring my wine glasses in, and we'll use some psychology, and we'll go over what does Saturn mean, and what does Pluto mean, and where is it in the sky, and why is the world going crazy? I'd love to know what you would like for the rest of the year of this show, because here's the deal. I'm a great mentor, and I'm a great speaker, and if you need a speaker at one of your groups, call me. I can help. I am great with a mic, in case you can't tell. And I love to talk to people, not just about this, but about how their dreams can become their books, and their books can become their lives, right? I mean, we write what we want to create. I've got the workshops on that. I've got the speeches. I've got the workshops I can do in public and on virtually, as well as I'm going to do a boot camp and do this Life on the Loose thing that will include looking at your chart and those north and south nodes and getting you started. So honestly, if being more pirate than princess resonates, if coming out of a chrysalis as a dragon instead of a butterfly, if you really think that's cool, if you see ravens and crows, if you see, you find feathers follow you around, anything that's just wow, and if you resonate with the fact that you've always been a little bit of an outlier, that you sail your ship at the edges of the armada, but still know you can shift the direction of things, that you can be a change agent by changing who you are, and that changing who you are isn't fitting a mold, it's becoming you. Not to live your best life, right? I don't know what that is, but to live your true life, your authentic light, your soul's light, to finding the language that works for you, then, yeah, I'd love to have you read my books, follow my blog. I'll be putting stuff on Facebook about my boot camp. I'll be putting it on my website. I'll be putting it on Twitter. I'll be putting it on LinkedIn. I'd love to work with you. I'd love to speak to your group. I'd love to talk to your book club, and I can do that virtually too. But I really want to know, what would you like for the rest of the year on the radio? Because you're still piling in here. This is amazing. Okay, we are getting close on time. I have 2 minutes, and I am going to start to say thank you to my clients who've been texting me. Thank you to a couple people who now showed up on Facebook. Thank you to everybody piling in and listening to my voice. And I know some of you are piling in because in 6 minutes you get to listen to the amazing Henry Archuleta and the smooth jazz. And so you got to stay for that because that's amazing, right? But here's what I'll leave you with. I'm not a coach, I'm a mentor. You can call me at will. We can work through things in unique ways. And here's what I know. I know inside of you there lives a soul craving expression. And I know that that's what you came here to do, and that it's never too late. It's never too late to reinvent yourself. If you're going through a life transition, you've just retired, I can help you with that because it's not too late. In fact, it's the perfect time. It's the absolute perfect time. So please, I'll be back in 2 weeks. I do have a guest for a bit of the show, but let me hear from you. Go to my blog, sign up for my website, email me. The email is there. It's elisarobin@msn.com. The blog's Elisa Robin. Go there. Contact me. Let me know what you'd like to hear on the show. And until next time, here's what I wish for you. Stay well, right? It's a little rough out there. Stay safe. Yeah, it's still a little rough out there. But also, stay inspired and keep living on the loose.